Alright everyone, now we have to talk about pendulum politics. It's usually stupid in nature. The left wing does this, the right wing does this. Pretty much everyone with political opinions that are beyond the mediocre believes in this. The left no longer thinks that the Supreme Court is legitimate. Even like stacking it, I guess, has fallen out of favor. I guess they want to abolish the Supreme Court or something now, and that seems to be what they believe. The Post-Legal Supreme Court, opinion by Ian Millhiser. Now, of course, an opinion piece doesn't speak for the wider site, but what do you think Vox.com's average fucking editor believes with regards to the Bruin or Roe v. Wade decision? The highest court in the most powerful nation in the world appears to have decided that it only needs to follow the law when it feels like it. Very interesting. You see, there are so many problems with this. If you're bringing up Roe v. Wade, for example, Roe v. Wade is not constitutional. This was said by even people who agreed with the premise. As a person who is pro-choice, Roe v. Wade was simply a SCOTUS decision from the 1970s. It does not create a constitutional amendment. If you wish to amend the Constitution to ban all guns, to make abortion legal up until the point of birth, whatever you want to do, you're free to do that. There's a methodology by which you can do so. Good luck getting enough state legislatures to go along with it. But you can. There is a process for doing so. If this were truly a lopsidedly one-sided social issue, as the left claims, where the supermajority of the population wants Ralph Northam abortion laws, you should be capable of passing a constitutional amendment to enshrine that. The fact is, that's not what the average American wants. This democracy horseshit that's constantly alluded to doesn't even figure into the equation. The fact is, the average American wishes abortion to be legal. They generally restrict that to, in the case of rape, incest, or a woman's life being in danger, and often first trimester, so 12 weeks or thereabouts. The fact is that the particular abortion decision by, what was it, Mississippi, that caused the Roe v. Wade challenge, the Dobbs decision, wasn't even that far off of the average within the United States, and it's right in line with the kind of abortion laws you see here in Western Europe. It's not bizarre by world standards. But what is bizarre, though, was what Ralph Northam did. What is bizarre is the abortion laws in the heavy blue states. They are an outlier. Really, part of Canada and part of Australia are the only other parts of the world that have such permissive laws with regards to abortion as about a dozen of the bluest states in the United States have. Effectively, in places like Virginia, California, Vermont, there is no stringency. There's no restriction on abortion. You have tax-subsidized abortions on demand up to and including in the third trimester. That is abnormal by world standards. I don't think that even most people who, like me, are entirely secular in the civic sense agree with that. I do believe that if it's past the point of viability, I would consider it murder. That's not an odd statement to make. There are some exceptions. Well, the baby is going to die anyway. It's all fucked up and the woman will die. Okay, well then it's an emergency. Perform the fucking abortion. If it is viable and healthy, and the woman's life is not in danger, and you've waited that fucking long without a real compelling reason, like, hey, I was locked up in my rapist's basement for the last 5 months, what the fuck do you expect me to do? Then I would say that the average person, 90+% of the population, does not want that to take place. The fact is that the left now is bitching about the Supreme Court because the composition of the Supreme Court no longer ideologically agrees with them. We saw this for goddamn years from the right wing when the Supreme Court made decisions they didn't agree with. We saw this with the ACA. Now, I, of course, think that the ACA is unconstitutional. It is a massive, broad overreach of government power. Roberts only ended up siding with the 4 liberals on the court. Well, I mean, he is a liberal, but he sided with them with the excuse that the ACA was fundamentally a tax and the federal government's allowed to tax people. So just ignore the 20,000 pages of legalese regulatory material and stuff like that. And no, it's basically just a tax. The ACA mandate makes it legal. This was hazarded in Texas, and unfortunately that case didn't go forward. I think methinks that they should be revisited, by the way. Now that you've got a proper composition on SCOTUS, you could probably knock the ACA out if you chose to do so. Somebody should get that legal suit going and ram it through as quickly as possible. Here's the thing. People whose ideology does not broadly control the Supreme Court, constantly bitch and whine endlessly about the Supreme Court being illegitimate. We've seen it from the left. We've seen it from the right. We're seeing it right now, though, from a very worrisome direction. I don't care that the average poop-butt fucking lay leftist doesn't like the Supreme Court because they said that people should be able to bear arms outside of their own property. I don't care about the fact that they're cut up over Roe v. Wade. The states are handling it, which is constitutionally normal and perfectly acceptable. I don't agree with the states that are banning abortion, de facto bans, of course. People will travel for abortions. By the way, that story about the 10 or sometimes in some reporting it's a 12-year-old getting raped by their dad and going to Indiana to have an abortion. There is currently no apparent criminal case in that case, which means that it might be horseshit. There is exactly one source for the story, and the fact-checking has actually begun with the Washington Post of all places. That might be a little bit odd for midterm voters when they find out that may very well have been propaganda. What I do have a problem with is the Joe Biden administration itself attempting to insinuate the illegitimacy of the Supreme Court. We should not tolerate a president, in name, of course, asterisk administration, selected. We should not tolerate the executive branch attacking the judicial branch because it disagrees with its decision-making. This is, by the way, relatively abnormal. There have been cases before where presidents were clearly disgruntled by Supreme Court decisions. This happened to Trump, it happened to Obama, it happened to W, it happened to Carter, it happened to Johnson. It happens all of the time. Never before, to my knowledge, other than with FDR, he was a tin horn dictator, wannabe, socialist, bitter cripple, cousin fucker, and deep-seated racist. Other than the miserable failure that was FDR, who is literally only remembered fondly for happening to be in office when Nazi Germany fell, even though he prolonged that war and allowed sales of oil by the Bush family to the Luftwaffe. You'll remember that, by the way. Pepperidge Farm fucking remembers. Other than that, I can't think of any other historical time, and I studied presidential history. When I was in college, I know that terminates with the Bush administration. I studied, I was in poli-sci, in quite a few courses. And we learned a lot about like the personality of presidents and stuff. I can't recall a single instance in which any president other than FDR, going back all the way to Andrew fucking Jackson, who told them to sit on it and fuck themselves and ignored their decision making. A little bit of an imperial president, even if you happen to like the attitude adjustment. Other than FDR, I can't think of another instance in which a president was so openly dismissive of SCOTUS legitimacy. That is, normally it's more like, well, I disagree with this decision, I am upset over this, I think this is taking us backwards, it's not progress, it's bad for the American people. The Supreme Court is killing Jesus. I can just literally hear him screaming as the nails are driven in by the Supreme Court's Chief Justice right now, says some evangelical when they say, no, you can't, lynch gay people or something. Back in the 90s or 80s or something. Last time they were moralistic. Leftoid says, oh my God, every child in the country will die because there are guns available to people. Why do you need more than one pneumatic rifle shot? Think of the children. How many rabbits can you kill? Go vegan. You get hyperbole like that from the lay people, with every fucking decision that you have. Unless it's 9-0 and there is really no impetus for having a public discussion over it, and that's rare, to be clear. Other than those few cases, there are always going to be people that bitch, but to have a sitting asterisk administration, the stewardship of Joe Biden, complaining that the Supreme Court is not simply wrong, but illegitimate, legally speaking, because of its decision-making, an actual threat to the existence of the United States based on Roe and Bruin, is abnormal. To be clear, this is not a normal era that we're living in. To have a selected asterisk administration complaining that the Supreme Court has become illegitimate because it upholds the Second Amendment and realizes and reverses a prior decision, not a constitutional amendment, nothing explicit, but an implied right upheld in the mid-1970s on the basis that it's not actually factually upheld by the amendment that was mentioned. The fact that that removes their legitimacy is nuts. And it's just pandering, by the way. Joe Biden's not going to stack the fucking court. He knows better than to do that, especially before midterms, and knows after the midterms he won't have the legal capability to do so. He'll be lucky if he doesn't get his ass removed from office. Good fucking riddance. That's about all. Peace out.